So welcome to another Drupal tutorial. So what we'll be covering is the CMS Drupal, and what we will be showcasing is how Drupal uses the Drupal Views module, a very powerful module. So it's like a plugin in WordPress. It comes bundled with the Drupal, so it's a core module, or in WordPress that's a core plugin. It comes bundled with the Drupal installer. So what is Views module? It's a lot of things. In WordPress context, probably that's something like using the query loop feature of the WordPress Gutenberg block editor. That's querying. So there are many purposes for views, why we use views, and one of those normally is similar to query looping in WordPress. Fetching content types, filtering content types, and further filtering the fields from within those contents. So just to give you a very solid example is, for example, we have this website. So this website has content called partners. All right. This has let me just log in from another window. So this website has a content called partners. So it's like in WordPress, you have pages and posts. But using WordPress, you can also create custom content types, right? Using ACF, for example, and build up your content type. So with Drupal, this really came natively, way before when Drupal started coming out. And I think Drupal was the first CMS to have that natively, creating custom content types. So we have created a custom content type called partners here, as you can see. So this page lists all the different content types that we have created. And I think this is it, this one. So usually you can create your own content type. This is how you create custom content type, provide the name, and then later on, the steps will lead you to creating your own custom fields. And it's very straightforward and easy with Drupal. The Drupal interface is very user-friendly and very straightforward. You can immediately see that each content created under the content type partners. If you go to content listing, where it lists everything, all the content types, all the contents, regardless the content types, okay? Regardless the content type. So if we filter, for example, by partners, as you can see, we have already content that we have created under this content type. So these are the same ones that are appearing here. All right. So when you have created already your content type, okay, as you can see, each content type, for example, has of course, it should have a title. That's a unique field, unique ID, and you should have an image and probably a URL, depending on your requirements. Would the client want people to be able to click on the image and has a hyperlink, or probably go to a dedicated page with descriptions? That's very possible. But in this case, what the client wanted was to simply have a listing of these logos of the partners, and each logo should be clickable. Of course, if we click on that, so we installed a module, that opens external websites in another tab or another window. So it automatically does that. All right. So the client just wanted the logo to appear, and on mouse over, there's a title tab. Of course, for SEO and accessibility, we all know that. Okay. There's an image that's displayed. arranged in a grid format and a responsive grid format. What it means is that when on mobile, it switches to, we're using Bootstrap, so it switches to one column. And on medium and large, it switches to immediately to 3 columns. So each of these content has an image. And of course, we make sure for accessibility that it has an alt tag, an alternative text that describes the image. And of course, on mouse over, this should be a hyperlink. And on hyperlink, we also want that to have a title tag on the link. So that's also for SEO and also for accessibility. So once you mouse over, there's a pop-up tooltip text that, describes the link, hyperlink. The same way that there's a alt text tag that describes the image. All right. So going back again to how we created this. So first we created the content type, banners. And that's another topic. I'll just share the link, how to create a custom content type. But this has now been created with, besides the title tag, the title field, you don't see it here because it's a unique field, unique ID, and sometimes WordPress doesn't want that exposed so that, because it's already saved in the database. If you go to edit the content type, the field type is already controlled here. Of course, you can change the title, right? You can change the label rather. Partners, for example, so that when your encoders goes to here and add a partner, what instead you will see here for the title field label, instead of title, probably partner or company name, right? All right. So we can do that. So this is the title tag here. Let me just save that. So that if you refresh that, this, you will see that the label becomes now partner for the title field. All right. And going back again by clicking on the managing the fields. So basically it has 4 fields besides the title field. Body or description field, so that when your encoders put in something here, you can see that he or she can see that they can upload an image, the logo, and put in some description if that is important, and URL field, and even the URL field, you can have a link text which can serve as a different purpose later on. You can use the link text, for something else later on. All right. So those fields are this one. All right. Okay. So that's just describing what we have right now: content type, partners, and the different fields under that content type. So going back to the requirement, we have set this up, this layout here, the grid layout, in a way that we use views. All right. So let me just go to the home page, so that we can see how it can be edited. All right. So with views, that's another topic really. You can create a view here. So just to give you a preview how to create a view that can work with your content types. What's a view again? In this case, we're trying to show how we can use views in creating a display using the different contents. Okay, in this case, a specific content type called partners. So probably, like for example, partners. Probably we don't want the grid because we already have that. So probably let's use a partners layout code, like a simple table. If that is what you want. No, table is not good. Yeah, I have a simple listing only. Simple list. This time we just want, instead of something like this, we just want to list the name, probably without the images for some reason, right? So we are now creating a views under structure, create, add view, and this is the page of creating a view. So first we need to provide a view name so that you have a reference in your listing of views, what views have been created and which one you need to manage. All right. So after providing the view name, put a description. This is a simple listing of partners. All right. Maybe bulleted, maybe not, but basically just a title. And on the view settings, this is where the power of views come in. Okay, you can query whichever content you want, whether it's a content or whether those are files or media, whether those are taxonomy terms or categories, or whether those are users if you're building a social media website, right? Or whether whatever. You can even build up if you see something missing here. All right. So, but first, we want to fetch. These settings will now ask you which content to fetch. So we want to fetch a Drupal entity called to content, and from the different content types. Remember, we have many different content types. So we have articles. So in WordPress, that's post. We have pages in WordPress, basic page in WordPress, that's page, and so on and so forth. This one is a custom content type, custom content type, custom content type, custom content type, custom content type. All of these are custom content type. The only content type that came out of the box, default, just like WordPress, are articles or posts and basic pages or pages. All right. So going back to our view again. So therefore, from the content, entity content in Drupal, we call that entities in Drupal. What type of entity? It's a content, not a menu, not a user, not a taxonomy or category, but content. And which content type do you want to fetch, to filter? We want to filter partners banners. And this wizard will give you some basic stuff, which you can customize later on, like how do we want to sort or order the content, whether by the title, uh, ascending or descending later on, or maybe by newest. So let's go to by title, alphabetical. Okay. And at this point, Views is giving you two options of layout already by default. Do you want to create a page which as a standalone is a page already which contains the layout, the listing layout, or do you want to just have a block which you can insert in a page? All right. Okay. Maybe that's a different topic for clarity. But let's create both and then leave everything for as default, save and edit. So we're still on the step of creating a view. Why do we need views again? Because we're in this where we want to create a layout, a particular layout, a very customized layout using Drupal views. All right. So after creating a page view, as you can see here, oh, sorry. How do I disable this? Oh my God. How do I disable this? Kindly hold. Let me check. Okay. From the wizard, it made us create two different displays, right? One display called page with different settings that are specific to a page display, and another display called block with also settings specific to block display settings. But this time, maybe just for quick demonstration, we want to use the page. And since this is a page, the display would ask you for a path or a URL of the page. So let's just say partners / simple list. Okay, so that we can access it later on. All right. Okay. And from what we have done out of the wizard, it has immediately created something below. You know, out of the box, it has created a title. It displayed the title for each and read more and some descriptions, all the default fields that we have for the content type, right? Here, all these different fields. So out of the box, it created that. But if we do not want that, since we only want the title, we do not want the description because not everyone has a description because it was not a requirement. So if you just want the title, let us save this first. And we will access this using this link here. Let's save that. And once that's saved, you can actually just click on view page to preview a public facing view display. And it does not look good, right? Because what we want, going back again, click edit the view. We just want the field, the title field. So to do that, out of the box, views has provide you can provide you different formats by default. And by default, it's usually format unformatted list. So we do not want the unformatted list. Instead, what we want is to control that as a probably HTML list so that later on we can remove the bullets if we do not want it. Okay, right? And apply that. Or probably you could actually, retain the unformatted. Only this time, we do not want other things like the date published or author, the read more, and the body field. We just want the title. So under the format, since we just want the one specific field, under format show, there is a setting here what you want to get. Since this is an unformatted format, it gets out of the box the default content of each content. So what we want is to control the output by selecting the fields, apply, and just click apply. This time, since we selected the fields, by default, the next setting here will just show you the title field. So actually, we're already done. We're already done. But if for some reason we're not happy yet, so let us save this. We want something else here. So what are the common things that you want? Maybe we can, for SEO purposes, this is not good, right? For SEO purposes, that's not good because I think that should be at least, if this is your heading 1, you might probably want this as heading 2 or heading 3. So there are many things you can do with views. For example, for layout and SEO, going back to the title, because this is just basic paragraph, I think, or something else. Just basic div, right? So we do not want that. We want that as an H3 or H2 at least. Okay. So going back to your views, go to fields again. Click on title because that's where you can see why it's plain text div because the formatter is plain text. And it's linked to the content, and under the style settings, probably we want to change the output from div, basic div, to customize the field. You can actually control the label or the entire wrapper of the field. In this case, we want the entire field to become this time as probably just H3. All right. And you can even add custom CSS. WordPress has implemented similar to this over the years, and I think the inspiration came from Drupal. Putting in custom CSS where you can. So, like for example, this one, partner's title, so that we can see how it works, and at the same time convert from div to H3 and apply that. And of course, you have to save your changes here. And actually, by doing that, you now have, let me just refresh the public page. You now have a H3 field That's hyperlink because we click the link to content, and it's now H3. And what's better is that, okay. So for SEO purposes, like, sir, shouldn't that be, if this is a link, shouldn't this have a title tag, right? So that on mouse over, yeah. So again, going back to Drupal, you can really customize things the way you really want it in a macro level. So go back to edit view again. This time, click the content, and out of the box here, you cannot really provide a title tag except this time we want to rewrite this. What do I mean by rewrite? Instead of outputting this, right? Instead of simply outputting what we have done, for SEO purposes and accessibility, the hyperlink should have a description, right? Instead of just outputting that, we want to put in the hyperlink, we want to put a title tag for the hyperlink, and it should get the same value of the title field. The value, right? The same value. Okay, right? So that on mouse over, it will still say our marine navigation communication. So we want to output something like this. Insert a title tag and getting dynamically the value from the title field entered. No? All right. So going back here, to output the same but differently, instead of using the default output, the settings here, what we want is this time to rewrite the results. Rewrite meaning to, let's do something else. Let's rewrite the output. All right. So if I want to rewrite the output, override the output of this field with custom text. When it says custom text, it means with custom HTML. All right. Since we want something like this, okay, we cannot simply do that, right? We need to have that dynamically. Whatever fields you have exposed here, okay, whatever fields you have exposed here will now become available under your rewrite. Under replacement patterns, you now have sort of a short code. We call this in Drupal code tokens. Put that there so that if I apply this and save, what happens now? We will lose everything now that we have done. Instead, it will just, it's still there. Because we said to output that as a link, right? It still outputs that as the same output basically, because the settings are still there. Link to content is still H3, but only this time we output this. But this time we want something else, right? We want to be able to say that if we want to output this differently, so maybe just for for clarity, maybe we remove the link to content since we want to output that differently. Customize field so that we can do the same thing again. Okay, under rewrite, we want to have something like this. Okay, H3 plus, we put the the class called partners, and now this is now an H3. Okay, apply that. Right? So it outputted that as an H3 if I save that. So we remove everything. We strip down everything, because we want something else. Okay. This is overkill. Normally we don't do that, but just for demonstration. So since we want to have the hyperlink, so probably what we want is to just click on the link here under title, link to the content, and apply the rewrite. Save that. This is now content. Okay. The only remaining thing to do is the title tag, right? It's a hyperlink now, but without the title tag on mouse over. So going back to the view, and we want to, rewrite results. We want to put here instead, if this is now a hyperlink, oh, we want to output that as ahref differently. This time, the hyperlink, oh, never mind. This is too much. Okay, this is too much. Too many things to discuss here. Well, anyway, let me just get back to a very simple example. Like, what we want to do here is probably a different layout. Like, for example, the client said, we want this. Can we customize this? Or can we sort this in a different manner? Like right now, it's sorted by alphabetically, right? So what we want now is client says, let me check. Client wanted to make hoverfly the first one on the list. And my defense should be on the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And marine, where's marine? What's marine? Okay. Awa marine, I think that should be in 7 position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? So, going back to our views for this, for this layout, what we have sorting under here, sorted, we have sorted the title by ascending. And there's a secondary sorting, which we actually do not need, but just as a backup, in case you want to mix the sorting rules, there's by author, by content, and the latest comes up. So maybe we do not want this. So just remove that so that we're stuck to content title. Okay. But basically, client doesn't want that, doesn't want that alphabetically. He wanted a custom, all right, a custom sorting. So what we can do is we need to go back to our manage fields, to our content type partners, and we need to create a field that we can use to control the sorting. And I think what's a very good field for that is to provide a number field. Probably weight, order, and sort. Just label that as such so that, you're reminded what this field is. And probably just want a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't want any decimal, just integer. Continue. Okay. And of course, 1:1. One content needs to be assigned as just one value. One content is 1, another content is 7, another content is 6, right? Which will be used to control the sorting. So, just put that limited to 1 because sometimes in different scenario you want unlimited values that can be entered, right? Like for example, what? Different emails. If we're creating email fields, you want to have 2 emails for each content, you can have unlimited or you can put 2. But in this case, just 1. And then let's make that as a required for the encoders so that encoders cannot save any partner content without entering a number. All right. And then save. So once we have that here, going back to your encoding, this time your encoder will now see that under partners, there is now a required field here that, they can say this is the first one, this is the third in the list, this is the 7th in the list, right? Okay. And with that, we can now go back to our content and actually do what is being required by the client. So just filter again by partners, filter. So first, they wanted hoverfly. So maybe let's reset everything to back to 0. Okay. There is also a bulk editing here, similar to WordPress. I think for bulk editing, Drupal has this for quite some time already. So Filtering partners, let's reset everything, edit the content, apply. Let's reset everything so we do not have to go to each content one by one, You do not have to go each content one by one, fix the weight order, right? Let's reset everything for the same field for everything by clicking the weight. Let's reset that to 0 for everyone. All right? So everyone is under 1. Or maybe, yeah, maybe 1. All right? And then we go from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and higher. And confirm. We are now, what are we doing here? We are now editing bulk by bulk all of the contents under content type partners, but only the field, the weight. Do not mess around with other things because it might replace the values. Okay, and putting a value of weight as 1. Alright, so that if you go into each of that, all of those, they now have a value called 1, right? So that we can control that later on. Okay, so going back again to our views, therefore, edit the view. What we want sorting is we do not want this. Alright, we remove that. Okay, so it's now unsorted. It does not have any sorting. I think by default, Drupal has that, by date. But we want a different sorting. This time we add a sort rule or criteria, and it will give you what are the options in your rules. All right. So just search for the weight, the name of the field here. What we are saying here, our criteria, our filtering now for sorting will have something to do with the weight field. Okay. Check that, apply. And it will now ask you, will we want that since this is the values of the weight field are 1, 2, 3 integers, right? Do we want that, from 1 going upwards to 10 or downwards, depending on the sorting? Or we want, something different. But in this case, the opposite. But in this case, we want 1 to appear the first one on the list, right? Followed by 2, followed by 3. So we want ascending and apply that. But since we have temporarily made everything as 1, so it does not really have something yet. So at this point, what we want is to now really control what we need. All right. So accordingly, I think maybe, put everyone, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So maybe put everyone as 11. I'm sorry about that. So that we can start from fresh. Edit the content, apply, only change the values of the weight and sort, put everything as 11, and confirm. So everything is at the bottom of the list. Only this time we want to follow a certain order. So hoverfly would be the first one. You can actually, sort things here. Hoverfly would be the first one. So we'll make that as 1. Okay? So once we save that, and our views is already waiting for that setting, right? Wait, if we refresh this now, because the view display has changed, the sorting settings has changed. Hoverfly, I think, now becomes the first one on the list. 1 followed by all of these under 11. And then this time, what we want is, how can we make this faster? So probably, if we do this alphabetically, no. So we have to really make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And probably the rest should be, so let's put another secondary, a secondary sorting by title. Let's see if the second sorting will take effect. If everyone is the same 11, they still have to follow the sorting by title. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. Since everyone is 11, except for one, since everyone, the rest are on the sorting 11, they still have to follow the secondary alphabetical filter. Right? So this time we can easily insert things, right, as we need while retaining everything. Am I doing that correctly? No. If this is one, defense is, all right. Let's see how we can do it. And defense should be number 4. Let's do this first. And marine should be number 7. Yeah, I think we don't really have a way to do it faster, but to really do it, okay. You know what? For another presentation, how can we make it from the back end? Even the back end, you can customize that. How can we make it from the back end that there is a row here, a column here that shows the column, the column for the field weight, right? So this is what we call, this is also a view, but this time it's a view called admin content. So it's like the page listing of WordPress. It's the post listing of WordPress, but you can customize it as needed. Edit that. This time I want to add a field, the weight, to show the values. Then configure and apply that. And this time I just want to rearrange that so that the weight should show up after the title. Apply. So that if I go back to my listing here and refresh that, I now have a weight order here, which shows the values of each, right? Yay, very good. So, and then from this point on, I just have to probably, sort it by title so that I can immediately see if this is 7 and sort that by published only. Okay. Alphabetical, still alphabetical. Let me see. All right. And publish only. So I don't have to do anything with this already, but Echodyne. No, I think we need to, yeah. If this is 1, the next that comes in the list is Echodyne, right? So Echodyne becomes 2. Save that. And then Electro Holdings becomes 3. Am I doing it correctly? I hope so. So that, if I refresh this again, let us see. If I refresh this again. And then probably sort that by order. Later. Let's provide a sorting option for this listing. Since this is the table, let's provide weight. That's sortable. Okay. Save that. Go back again to the listing. And this time we will see we can sort by weight. At the same time, we can also sort by title. So if we will be sorting this by weight, we now have 1, 2, 3, correct. And from requirement, my defense comes 4. So there should be something happening from 5 to 6. Okay. So the next in the sorting. So Mac becomes 5. Matrix Pro 6. Save. Save. I hope you are following me. And then refresh again. All right. If we sort by weight, 1, 2, 3, 4, correct. 5, 6, correct. And 7, because this is the requirement, that's okay. And then we can finish off with the list. So from 7, what becomes 8 and 9? Sometimes to be able to become flexible, sometimes what I do is make this by tens or by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, so that we can insert items in between. This is pretty much sometimes overkill, but if this is the requirement, this is the thing to do. In short, normally with WordPress, when clients ask us to customize things like this, very, very, very customizable macro level, sometimes we find the plugins by that time useless. Sometimes plugins do not have those features, even paid. We end up, creating our own plugins or making a mess, a lot of things in our functions.php. But with Drupal, it's very fieldable, it's very customizable, it's very scalable and very flexible, pragmatically by structure. You can do a lot of stuff similar to this. Not just this, but a lot of stuff. All right. It's like, what they say with Drupal views. Views is the Swiss knife of Drupal. You can do a lot of things, whatever you want. Almost every time when clients ask us to customize, to change features and things with Drupal, almost 99%, yes, we can do it out of the box using UI UX only without heavy custom coding. So let's continue with the list. 7, Redbird becomes 8, Yonka, VST becomes 9, and Yonka becomes the last one on the list. Okay, there should be an idea that people might ask, is there a feature where you can just simply click and drag things, instead of using a field to control that? I think there is. But you have to do something else, because that's how Drupal works. If you need something, you have to do it. You have to set it up. That's why they say there's this myth that, it's not very user friendly. Definitely, this Drupal is not user friendly for your basic users. Drupal was really made for developers. Instead of coding, you just you do things by UI. You don't really have to code anymore. Most of the time. All right. If we want that, by click and drag, I think there's a way to do that. You just need to, you know, search for another module called, I think it's a draggable field. Yeah, draggable views. Yeah. All right. So that you will have a click and drag functionality. But that's another topic. We don't really have time for that. So basically, when we refresh this now, if we refresh this now, we were able to provide what is being asked by the client. All right. Everything is still alphabetical except we have hover on the first part here and we have my defense on the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have marine 4, 5, 6 on the 7. Okay, so I guess that helps. So what else can we do? Or what if for some reason, for accessibility and maybe even design, what if we want to add things like, under this, we should probably have the full name of the partner because sometimes